Be sure to hop on over to my official website at victoriareynolds.com and pick up your free gift and check out all the other goodies that I have there for you. Okay, so today I have on these beautiful guests, Leah and Cameron from South Africa. And I met Leah online. I don't know how she discovered me, but somehow she discovered me and my books and has put my books in her OMNI magazine a couple of times. So I reached out to Leah and asked her if she wanted to be on the show to talk about what OMNI is. And I did some Googling and found out that she and her husband, Cameron, are up to some really, really cool things in the world. So I'm really excited to bring them here on the show and to share their story with you. So Leah, I know that you are a musician. You are what I call a prolific artist. And I love that you and your husband are on the same team, which is really a big, big deal right now because so many couples are not on the same team right now. This great awakening happening has split up so many people. And it's so beautiful and refreshing to see couples that are together and on the same team working toward the same unified purpose. So I'm curious how the two of you met. Off camera, you briefly mentioned it, what a great, beautiful story it was. So I would love for you just to share that with my audience.
Do you want to go first?
Thank you so much first for having us. This is exciting. This is our first interview.
Exciting. Nerve-wracking.
Nerve-wracking. Yeah. But actually, I think the way that we first met was through Humanity's Team Evolution Revolution page. Are you part of that on Facebook?
Oh, yeah, with Neil Donald Walsh.
Yes, and that's exactly how Cameron and I met. It may have been at the same time. I don't know. We may, it might have been the same instance that connected all of us. But I was living in Canada at the time with my late husband and our two youngest children. The oldest one's in California with his family. But this was in 2015, July of 2015. And I had just read the book Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh. And after reading it, it was such an aha kind of book, having been raised fundamentalist Christian and having started in the previous 4 or 5 years, really started questioning things and seeking further and outside of the religious tenets that I've been brought up with. And that book just made so much sense. And so I Googled Neil Donald Walsh and a few other things, and that led me to the Humanities Team Evolution Revolution page on Facebook. And so I posted a thing about having read the book and about not having very many friends that would relate because of my background. Most of my friends were still with that strict religion. And one of the things I said was I'd be honored, if anybody wanted to be a Facebook friend. And of course, you get your likes and comments and everyone was very kind, but there was one name that for some reason just jumped out to me on the list of likes with a little picture of a painting of a cherub by Akian. I don't know if you know Akian, the painter of Jesus, and she was a child prolific artist. Now she's, what do you call a child that's prodigy? She was a prodigy. Now she's an adult and still a prolific artist. But anyway, that name, Cameron Boyd Kirrane, there was just a sudden, a jolt of electricity or recognition. There was something there. And he sent me later, I don't know if it was the same day or what, but later said, I read your post on Evolution Revolution page and I understand completely and I'd be honored to be your friend. And I said, thank you. And that was pretty much the end of that conversation. I was married, had my family. Actually, at the time in Canada, we were in between homes. I won't say homeless, but in between homes, living in a tiny little camper from the 70s that we had refurbished to help get us back to California. We were in Alberta at the time and hoping to get back home before winter set in with the snows and stuff. And we were living on an acreage of a friend, just basically in their backyard. And 2 months later, at that time, Cameron was doing a hike on the west coast, a solo hike for Humanities team. And I'll let him take the story from here, tell a little bit about that hike that he was doing and what it was for, and then we'll bring it back to how I ended up in South Africa.
Well, I was preparing for the second leg of a hike along the west coast of South Africa, which is incredibly isolated, because also Conversations with God, Neil Donald Walsh's book, really touched me. It touched me in a way that no book has ever touched me, and I think it was then that I started making some serious changes in my life. I was seriously questioning myself, my life, the next 10, 15, 20 years. And the reason why this hike was so important with me is because if Neil Donald Walsh could have a conversation with God, I too wanted to have my own conversation with God. And the best place that I could think of was the west coast of South Africa, which, unlike the east coast, which is incredibly built up. And so I did this hike. It was a 1,000-kilometer hike. It took 7 weeks in total. And while doing it, I was flying the flags of Humanities team, as well as an Ubuntu conscious South Africa, liaising with Anna-Marie Peterson, who was the coordinator for Humanities team in South Africa, and handing out the 1,000 words that would change the world in all the little towns along the way, which were far and few between, but that's what I was doing. And it was during the course of these travels, maybe halfway through, that I remember the terrible news of I ended up reading one of Leah's posts.
So this was in September. So you were just about finished, or still
yeah. Halfway?
That's right. September 10th, 2015, my husband, we still hadn't made our way to California yet, but my husband was killed. Actually, we were hoping to leave that following weekend. It was like right up to the line, and we were just, okay, this weekend we're making our way back. And he was killed in a quadding accident. He was just taking a morning drive and was hit by a school bus and killed instantly. And yeah, that was a shock, of course. Actually, when the police came to where we were staying and said, "Are you Leah Kirrane?" And I said, "Oh no, what have I done now?" Because previously that year, I had a warrant out for my arrest because I was involved in an accident, a single car accident, just me. But the car that I was driving was a friend's and it wasn't insured. So driving without insurance, I had a warrant out for my arrest. And in June of 2015, I spent 2 weeks in jail in Edmonton. And it was actually a great time. But it was a vacation compared to living in a camper, with no running water and 3 square meals a day, and I could read and do puzzles all day. And anyhow, actually, while I was there, I had gone to a chapel service, and the preacher there said, he stopped and he said, "Hold on," like he's getting a message. He said, "The Lord is telling me that there's somebody here who truly believes." And he came towards me and he said, "You are a true believer." And I said, "Absolutely, I am." And not necessarily a true believer in the religion or anything, but a true believer. I've always had faith and believed in miracles, believed in God source with all my heart. And he said, well, the Lord wants me to tell you that your faith will be honored. And so, there's plenty of tears and stuff, but it was honestly 2 weeks of jail was quite an amazing experience for me. And I know that most people can't say that, but I think it all has to do with perspective. Anyhow, yeah, my husband was killed. And so the kids and I ended up flying back to California, because that's where all of our family is, Central California, Fresno. And I had a service. I led the funeral service in Canada and also one in Fresno. And but I guess that's when that announcement happened that Cameron kind of popped back on the scene. And I was still at that point, I had no intention actually of ever being married again, ever meeting anybody after that. Our life with my late husband was quite difficult. He was bipolar. He had addiction issues, post-traumatic stress, serious events in his past that, haunted him. So it was definitely a not an easy, blissful, marriage and life. But I always looked at it as having been for a reason and growth. And so anyhow, sorry, I kind of lost train of thought. We went back to California, and it was in October when Cameron responded to something. I think it was someone had given me a car as a wonderful, wonderful blessing. And that's when Cameron actually responded to one of my posts. And I was like, there's this guy again. And that recognition again that I wasn't expecting. But it was just, something. It was definitely a spiritual recognition. You want to go on from there?
Yeah, I'll go on from there. So I ended up finishing the hike, which was the southernmost point of Africa, Cape Agulhas. And I went back to Johannesburg, and I was staying at my brother's place, and I was there for 3 weeks. And I had a page called Soul Walker. It was purely for this hike to keep people in Humanity's team and others informed on my progress and on the journey and the other people that I was coming into contact with. And I woke up one morning on I think it was the 24th. Yeah, the 24th, it may have been the 23rd of October, 2015, to find, 20 likes. Now, in those days, there were no loves or hugs or wows. There were just likes. And I had a look. I went online. I thought, wow, 20 odd likes. This is amazing. This is incredible. And it was Leah. Every single one of them. She had gone through. That's a beautiful picture. She had gone through every single post of mine, every single photograph, and liked them all. And I thought, is this woman stalking me?
Go ahead.
And then it just happened naturally. We just started a conversation, and that conversation...
Well, the conversation started with me sending him a message saying, I'm not stalking you, but I had just been reading a book. Actually, I had been started reading it at the time when I was still in Canada, but it was called Peace Pilgrim. Mm-hmm. And it was this woman, her story of her hike, basically, or walk. She crossed the United States several times, spreading this message of peace and oneness, which is what Cameron was doing. So when I saw that page and it connected with this book that just touched my heart, and I had felt when I read that, I want to be a woman like that. I want to do something, have that kind of impact or that kind of story. And then I meet this guy who had that electric recognition charge who was living that specific. So I went to his page and loved dollars or liked at the time.
Liked,
I'm not stalking you. I promise.
And then this conversation went on for a year. We never had a video chat. It was either over the phone or via text on Facebook.
And he was working from an old BlackBerry with the little, these big hands. I don't know how he did it. He did it. Wow. I was so impressed.
And yes. So,
and it turned out, shortly into the conversation, maybe it was in November by then or something, that we found out that we had the same dream, the same vision of creating a community of like-minded people where we work cooperatively and create a regenerative, self-sustaining healing center, and almost exact. And I had been dreaming this for years, and I was hoping that it would come to pass in Canada, several places that I thought, this is the place, and things didn't pan out. But I think one of the primary reasons was my late husband, wasn't there. He was supportive, but it wasn't his vision. So I don't think it wasn't meant to be. Obviously it wasn't, or it would have been. But for Cameron to have that same, as he was doing this hike, he was thinking about, this could be a nice place to set up, this healing and retreat center and this and that. And we found that out much later. Not much later, but
a couple of months later, and we were actually toying with an idea of a name. And I mean, even before we had met, and Leah's great contribution.
No, don't say it.
I'm going to say was
as a kingdom of heaven. Like cooperative, but we could play with the words. And it's funny because it was my son Dylan, who I was throwing names out. He's like, no, that's not it. And I said, are you going to tell me what it is? He says, no, but it starts with an O. And he was 8 at the time. 9. He's 14 now. That was 5 years ago. So 8, 9. And it starts with an O. And so that's when I started thinking of O-word. What means, because part of the vision of what we're building has to do with the whole of things. When I was previously dreaming about it, it was called Pi, or Paul's Inspiration. My last name was Paul's. And it was all about pi and the circle and the whole, and not just taking pieces of the pie, but incorporating everything. And this idea came because years before, I had come up with a product idea called my list book, My Life in Simple Terms book. And I won't explain everything just in case, I still want to do it. But so my list book, I took it to the Small Business Association in Fresno. And they said, this is great. It's going to make you're going to be rich. You'll be a printer for the rest of your life, but you're set for life. And I thought, a printer? I'm a writer and a musician, and I want to do this and that. And they said, pipe dreams. So that's what sparked the thought of what could one do to be able to have all of it, to do all of it, to produce, to go ahead and print your book, but other books as well, and to go ahead and do your music and have other people collaborate and cooperate in that regard, and to, all of this. And so this Paul's Inspiration dream came about. So when Dylan said it started with an O, I'm thinking, what means everything, whole, and omni? And so I actually had to put it to Dylan first. I said, is it omni? Like, that's the one. This 8-year-old
so
boy.
Much sense,
Yeah.
Omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent, and it just incorporated everything, so the name was incredibly important, and the OMNI Foundation was born then. It only materialized and became a nonprofit company in 2017 after Leah and the children ended up coming through to South Africa. And then I think it was 6 weeks later? No, about 9 weeks later that we were married on January the 12th.
Yeah, so
2017.
2017. We moved here. The kids and I hopped on a plane. That amazingly, our ticket was paid for by my late husband's parents.
But that in itself is another story attached to that.
We don't have to go there.
I ended up meeting Eleanor, Leah's mother-in-law, before I met Leah.
Because she was in Swaziland on a missions trip, and she took a gift to Cameron from me, and Cameron had a gift to her. They met at Ora Tambo, the main airport in Johannesburg. And she came back and said, he's so warm and loving, and just from that one meeting, and I trusted her feeling. But up until that point, we had been planning on Cameron going to the States, and we would travel around and see how we connected, whether that feeling was, anything real. And but she came to me about a week after she'd come back from Swaziland, and she said, would you consider moving to South Africa? And it was a huge shock. And I had just had a dream like a week before of my mother, the kids and I walking down the highway, and I was carrying something heavy, and my mother-in-law pulls up in this little sports car, and she says, looks like you guys need a jump. And she pulls out her jumper cables and attaches it to this thing that I had. It was like an amp or something. And I was thinking, no. And Dylan and I were afraid of the sparks and afraid things were going to blow up. And she and my daughter were just laughing and having a good time. And she pulls off the spark plugs and says, okay, you're all set. And then a week later, she comes and said, in real life, comes and says, what if you go there? And it's like the spark, the catalyst, the battery charged that got me thinking, maybe. And 3 months later, it was almost a year to the day that we started talking. The kids and I were on a plane to South Africa to meet him for the first time. And yeah, that's now 5 years ago. 5 years ago this October.
That's it.
Wow. That is such
Wow.
a great story. Oh, that's beautiful. And that the two of you have the same visions and the same dreams, and that's really extraordinary.
It's truly amazing to be able to work with someone who is your best friend,
soulmate, twin flame,
whatever you want to call it, of like mind. We balance each other perfectly, which is important.
Yeah, in fact, we're 6 years apart, and in Chinese astrology, those are the complete opposites. So he's the snake and I'm the pig, and supposedly they don't get along. But and I can see the snake in him and the pig in me. The pig's all innocent, naive, and he's all streetwise and cautious. But we do, it's a balance in yin yang, definitely.
That's what I heard that about twin flame relationships, that they, because their twin flames are kind of opposite of the same flame, so there is a little bit more of a charge in there than would be sometimes in other relationships, but that the purpose is so connected. It's like you're two parts of the same whole. So you have the same vision and the same purpose, the same desires, and that's something that so few people ever really find. People find soulmates all the time, but to find a twin flame is rare.
Yeah.
So
we're definitely blessed. Yeah,
that's
so we know that it's divine. There's no question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So what is the OMNI Foundation?
Well, the OMNI Foundation, Victoria, was, as I said, set up as a nonprofit company in 2017.
March
2017, and it was there to create and support the building of soul sanctuaries. And by soul sanctuaries, I'm referring to holistic, self-sustaining, and regenerative living, learning, healing centers. So that is the mission. It incorporates just so much, but that was the initial idea, and it is all about living, whether it's interns, whether it's the residents, whether it's the members, whether it's guests, whether it's people who come there for a week, a weekend, just to get away from the hustle and bustle of Johannesburg or Pretoria, big cities. There are a lot of people out there that are hurting, that need space, that need peace, that need some tranquility in their lives to figure things out for themselves. Unfortunately, too many of us surround ourselves with the noises of the world, where we have very little time to kind of think things through clearly. So, and yet that's just still a small part of it. I mean, sometimes I think we're trying to take on too much, but it's one of those things, dream big, or, rather pack it in and do something else. So our dreams are big, and we have dedicated the rest of our lives to this. And it is a legacy that we are choosing to leave behind for future generations. So the important factor has been to find really the right piece of land, and we've had a look at a variety of different properties. At one stage, we were uncertain whether South Africa was the place, and we were contemplating going back to the States. And then it was, no, we've decided on South Africa, but now we're in South Africa. So we are looking in different regions of KwaZulu-Natal, or we were looking in the Western Cape. And then I think only recently we've decided that because of the children, because of the 5 years that we've spent here, because their friends are here, they go to karate here, Dylan does boxing, they found a home. Not where we're living right now is exactly home, but a place where they feel comfortable and secure. So we've been looking in and around Kraskorp, which is a very small touristy town.
in the mountains.
In Mpumalanga. It's very close to the Kruger National Park. We are surrounded by natural pools and waterfalls. It's incredibly scenic. It's absolutely amazing and incredibly beautiful. And in that sense, we're incredibly blessed. But it's also surrounded by man-made forestry, you know, so nothing natural, unlike you find in California and the States, where you have these huge, massive forests. But so most of the land in and around sizable properties are owned by these forestry companies. However, just recently, and I mean recently, I'm talking a couple of weeks, a plot of land has become available. When I say a plot, we're looking at 7 hectares, which is equivalent to in the region of about 17, 18 acres, which ticks all the boxes. Now, I've met with the owner. Unfortunately, his sister was involved in a terrible accident, who was actually running the place. It was how would you describe the Lisbon Hideaway? A lodge of sorts. And his sister was involved in a terrible accident at the beginning of this year, and he's trying to tie up loose ends, and he's had a calling to go through to another city, another town in the Orange Free State, which is a province very similar to the states in the USA. And he's looking at selling it. So children, Leah, haven't seen it. I have contacted them. We're going this week to actually go and see it. For me, it ticks all the boxes. It's about 8 kilometers, maybe 4 or 5 miles outside of Kraskorp. So it's close enough, but yet outside of town. It has a beautiful little stream I wouldn't say a river, but
well, it is a river.
Yeah, it's a river,
Lisbon
but
River.
Lisbon River running through it. It's very close to the Lisbon Falls. It's very close to the Berlin Falls. As I said, we're surrounded by these massive waterfalls. And it just has everything that we need in order to get started. And as I said to you earlier, it's always been about patience, really, because unfortunately, sometimes we tend to get frustrated and things aren't exactly working out at the pace and speed we'd like them to work out. And, sometimes I've questioned myself, is this too big? Is this too huge? Is it a question of just throwing in the dream and just continuing with my videography and Leah carrying on with the music and the books and making money that way and doing what we need to do. But yet, something that I've come to realize, and I think this is what Leah has taught me, never, ever, ever settle for second best. It might take a very long time before it comes, but when it comes, it's well worth it. And this has been my philosophy. So that has managed to get me through.
I didn't know you were going to go into so much detail. As of yesterday, this was still supposed to be hush hush. We weren't telling anything. We even want to stay here.
Well, we will. All of us who watch this video will help you manifest it.
Yeah.
Excellent.
All the intentions.
We need a bit of divine intervention.
It's going to take a miracle.
It's going to take
but
a miracle.
Life is about miracles. We've had enough miracles in life to not doubt, have no doubts.
That's right. Yeah. So the OMNI Foundation, then, that focuses on healing services, right?
You want to go?
Yeah, look, it's a combination. This is a vision of the OMNI Foundation. And to do it justice, I'm actually going to read it to you because Leah has this incredible talent of bringing... Just read. The OMNI Foundation is here to bring healing and wholeness to our world by living, sharing, and teaching spiritual, sociological, ecological, and economic principles of peaceful and regenerative community living, where the pillars of awareness, very big, transparency, responsibility, cooperation, uphold a framework encircling health of spirit, mind, body, environment, and foster community, very big, productivity, education, being homeschoolers, very big into that, creativity, and leisure. So that is the OMNI Foundation's vision, which is on our website. And in order to do it justice, I'm sorry. I was bound to mess up if I would try and remember all of that because it
notes.
Yeah, I'm trying to sneak one in here.
That's where the Omni comes in, and it's all of it. You can't leave out, we're not going to leave out the passion for the arts or the passion for healing or
regenerative living, food forests. We need to. There are a lot of homesteading is very big in the States. Well, it is becoming big, or it has been big, but there are a lot of people that are going out there and are now homesteading, and it's about off-grid living, but without losing any of your comforts. And unfortunately, the way things are happening in this country and the way things are happening in the world, I think more and more people need to start growing their own food. We've become so reliant on the system. We've become so reliant on our stores and on our shops that in the event of anything really big going down, things are going to be incredibly difficult. And the virus, Coronavirus, has hit the world, has hit the small little touristy town that's relied on international tourism so much. And unfortunately, that is now non-existent. So much so that people are now actually going hungry. even within this tiny little town. And I mean, Leah and I do what we can. And I mean, we contribute to the feeding schemes, and there are a number of people who are very hands-on within the community, who cook the food, get it out to the people, and it's just bringing awareness, and it's about contributing, and it's about, the crazy thing is, I was actually thinking of this today, that every single donation that the OMNI Foundation has received has actually gone out to locally feeding our community and helping others, even as far as Uganda.
Wow.
Leah did something incredible last year where Nzamba needed beds and linen for his little village.
This is a friend in Uganda that I also met through Facebook several years ago.
Who was sleeping on little mats,
wicker
mats
on the dirt.
And just to be able to get them some mattresses.
He had wanted. I'll tell the story.
Okay, you do that.
Samba, he's a young man, and actually we did an article on him. We've highlighted him a few times in our magazine, especially after last year. We did this, helped him with a fundraiser. It was called Caroling for Comfort, and it was we had someone in the States who was able to open a GoFundMe page for him, because he had been wanting these mattresses for years. And they're not only help with comfort, but sickness, the diseases and stuff that a child can get just sleeping on basically bare dirt, except for the little wicker mat that they had. And so we finally were able to put this fundraiser together, and people I did a Christmas carol or two, and then others sent in their Christmas carols and just brought awareness to raising money to help them get these mattresses. And it worked, and we were able to raise $3,000, which was what he needed in order to purchase 60 mattresses that would be for the children and the elderly of his village. And he's just such an amazing young man. He's 24 now, I think. Actually, his birthday is right around Christmas, so it was a Christmas gift and a birthday gift for him. And so now
God's Will Foundation.
God's Will Children's Foundation is the name of his organization. He's trying to get it registered as I forget the terminology, having to do with nonprofit. But so now we're going to launch a new one in October that is to help them get a borehole or a well dug. And so I'll be releasing a song called Water, and we'll be putting that whole thing together, hopefully launching that October 1st.
For December.
Yeah, it's October until however long it takes, but hopefully from October through December. But so right now the OMNI Foundation, we live to serve. We don't have our land yet where we can bring people there for the healing, but the products that we create, products and productions, I'd say, books and music and videos and poetry, it's all has a spiritual foundation, and we offer it for free to anybody who wants to download it. Everybody in it, our website, you can download on our website. Like my music's also on SoundCloud and Bandcamp, and it's all for free. And if anybody wants to give in return, we accept that gratefully. But we're just about helping where we can. And now that we've found this, now that we have finally decided, and I wanted to know by I had my 50th birthday back in July, and I said, I want to know by then if Kraskop is the place to stay. Is this where we're going to plant our roots? Because we've both been gypsies all our life, and I always prided myself in this gypsy spirit. But I've finally come to a point in my life where I want to lay down roots, and wondering where is it going to be, kind of pulled between the hemispheres, because I've got my whole family and my grandkids and my son back home. But part of one of the issues is they're not of like mind. And it's like, am I going to go back? I don't want to go back to California. it's too expensive for one, and the politics for another thing. And we would still be far away, even if we went back to the States. We'd still be quite far. And is South Africa the place to stay? And if South Africa, is it here in Frasco, this town? But like Cameron said, the kids have stability here. And that's something that in all our moving around, they hadn't had, and that they need, at least until they're old enough to choose,
18,
what they want.
18's a good age.
And our vision for the OMNI Foundation is not just to stay in one spot and have our one little place. It's to create a model that can be replicated. And so we've been doing lots of reading and studying on intentional communities all over the world, and what makes or breaks them. And
10% of them survive.
Yeah. But most of them don't do their homework in advance. So we believe with our combined age and wisdom and experience and purpose that this dream has with divine help. We're shooting for the stars. And we think we finally found our spot. Yes. And it's weird to say, it's almost scary when you've been such kind of a free spirit, wandering spirit all your life, to say, okay, this is where I'm going to settle my roots down and stay for a while. But I do believe this is the place. And if, going out on a limb to say, yes, that's the property, but we'll see. We'll see. What manifests.
If it is what's best, it will be what is, right?
Yeah,
definitely.
So what is an intentional community? Okay, so here's my question. I know that I was going to ask this one. What's the difference? This is just coming from my own personal background. The difference between an intentional community and a cult. I grew up in an
little research.
It was actually a cult. So,
we did a little research, and Tim Miller, who's a professor of religion at the University of Kansas, in the States, this is how he defines both. The concern about intentional communities being potentially dangerous cults is one of the most common and significant misconceptions held by people unfamiliar with the subject. When people call a community a cult, they're really saying they don't like or understand the group's beliefs and practices. He goes on to say that he encourages people not to call intentional communities cults, which tends to slur all communities, but just to say, I don't like them, I don't understand them, or I strongly disagree with their methods. If that is the case, if you believe the group is lying, manipulative, and emotionally abusive, or that it is patriarchal and demeans women, the request is that you not refer to them as a cult, but rather call them a lying, manipulative, emotionally abusive group, or a patriarchal group that demeans women. This is more straightforward, more truthful, and it doesn't slur the community's movement in general. And if you fear that the group is harming its members, don't call them a cult, call the police. And I think that just kind of summed it up beautifully, because generally you are right, and there are a lot of people out there that when they hear the word intentional community, the words that pop to mind is hippie, commie, cult. Those 3 words, hippie, commie, cult. And it's really not like that. And if you actually dig into the communities, the intentional communities movement, it's growing in popularity in Canada, in the USA, in Europe, in South America, in Australia, in New Zealand, in South Africa. It is actually happening all over the place because people are finding it difficult to do it all by themselves. And if 2 people can find themselves, I'm sure other can find each other. and actually get something like this going, who are of like mind, who have the same vision, same mission, and are working towards a common purpose. And I think that's the big thing. And good people like that aren't hard to find, but there are plenty out there. The thing with this is that you have the pioneers, and I like to see Leah and myself as being the pioneers, and then you have the settlers. And there are a lot of people out there who we have met who are very interested in joining us, but at the same time are just waiting for the land. Now, had we had the land, it would be very easy. But I think this is the final, well, I don't know about the final hurdle, but this is the next hurdle, is actually getting a land, planting our roots, having our base, and to grow from there.
And I think going back to the definition of what is a culture, what's the difference, we mentioned like-mindedness in community, and that like-mindedness for us is just that common Ubuntu understanding of I am because we are. It's the oneness of humanity, but it's not a religious or an ideological must. Cults tend to be authoritarian, brainwashing, mind controlling. If you don't absolutely follow the leader or the ideology, then who knows what can happen. And so that's not where we're, that's not in our vision at all. We believe in self-sovereignty. We want a model of self-sovereignty and cooperation. There's an interdependence. It's not like a lot of the homesteaders and preppers and stuff. So many of them are rugged individualists, and I admire that. And I've felt kind of like that at times in my life. But when, like I was talking about, when this dream all came to be for me, this idea of how do you do the recording and the books and all of this together, you can't do it on your own. So you have to have a community of people. And it could be just, in a high-rise building where you're getting it all done. But I don't want that either. I want to be able to be there for my children. I don't want to be a workaholic, stuck in the office all day, producing, printing, producing books or whatever. I want to be in community and have people working together towards this common goal and supporting others in their arts or their talents or their purpose, and, a mutual support. So, not cult, just community. And my mom, actually, I remember when I first put this, was telling my mom all about this idea, she and people of that same very religious mindset or very nationalistic maybe mindset, she equated community with communism and or even commune. And one of the difference between a commune and there's so many types of intentional communities. There are communes, there are ashrams, which are spiritual communities, specifically spiritual. What else? What other kinds? Co-housing, which is very popular in Canada and the States right now. I lost my train of thought. A commune is where everybody shares everything. And that's not necessarily that's not the route that we want to take. We believe in independence, interdependence, self-sovereignty, but also cooperation. And that's where I think society is lacking so much, because there's so much of this Western capitalistic individualism, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, and nobody's really pulling each other up. And if somebody does need a hand up, we have to rely on the government, for the most part. And that's where socialism comes in. And when people should just be helping one another, if we can move towards that, I believe it's a new earth mentality of communities and people. Like Jesus said, loving one another as yourself, or doing unto others as you'd have them do unto you. That's really not the capitalistic way. And I do believe in capitalism as far as free market society goes, but there's got to be some consciousness to it. And so we're like Cameron said, we're pioneers. This will all be an experiment, but I believe that society is moving more towards this because the structure, the system that we have is collapsing.
Right.
And we're going to have to come up with a new way to live.
Doing things.
And I believe we can come up with a much better way. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. So thank you for that clarification. For me, the difference between when I love the idea of intentional communities, and they've been brought up to me, and I kind of go, not me. But in my case, it was all indoctrination that went with it. So if we're to create these intentional communities, then they are like free of any dogma. Because that's where you start to get that patriarchy and a man at the top who runs the whole thing. And so there's a way to build these communities where every person is a sovereign being and mutual support, but there isn't an overarching purpose other than for every person to thrive.
Right.
Like each other. And I actually have to share with you, I'm being shown to write a book. And the first thing one of the things I started writing about is what communities will look like. And I think I know what your community is intended to look like on a visual scale, what I was being shown. And seeing how these communities will be set up. And I think these are going to be the way of the future as the existing systems start to collapse. And we need to become self-sufficient again, where we have become so dependent on the system.
Yeah, right.
We know how to be interdependent, and so these intentional communities are an interdependence, which we know isn't the same thing as codependent. Codependent is unhealthy, and interdependent. I'm dependent, and you're dependent, and we can also depend on each other. Tell me a little bit about your magazine. What are you doing with that, and how can people find it? How can they participate in sharing that forward?
Well, it started out as just our basic monthly newsletter, just letting people know what we were up to.
Family and friends in the States.
But we wanted to add so much more about the vision that we have for the OMNI Foundation about community and regenerative living and all of that. So we started a quarterly magazine. It comes out the 1st of January, April, July, and October. And we tell our story within it, but we have articles. All of our articles are about health of mind, body, spirit, family, and community and environment. Yes. So we've got things about conscious architecture, education. A lot of the education stuff is about homeschooling, but sometimes it's specifically about gardening or all kinds of things about regenerative living, articles on community, what makes good community, the problems, and so it's basically part of the reason we're doing it, and we create it in a PDF format. It is downloadable, or you can subscribe to it for free from our website, the omnifoundation.com. But the whole of it, the omni of it, I guess, is, the vision that we have for living. So, like I said, health of mind, body, spirit, and environment, all of it packed together. I think about if I were receiving a magazine every 3 months in the mail, I would be very excited to get this one because there's a lot going on, so much to learn. And we love to highlight whenever we meet a person who has an amazing message that we want to share, like we shared your books and we've shared an article. Actually, it was just one of your Facebook posts, and I said, can we put this in our magazine? We used it as an article last time. having to do with resolving those issues of the past in order to move forward. And that's what it's all about. And so, we spotlight people in the local community here to bring it a little more South African, but it's an international, I think it has international appeal. And
definitely.
Everything in it is meant to be uplifting and inspiring. And so that's what we hope to accomplish.
A lot of time and care goes into putting this magazine together.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's like a puzzle. I love puzzles.
A very graphic design is like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's fun. It's artistic and it's creative. And so if you're giving away, I shouldn't say giving away all of your services, your products for free. I try not to use that term because there's this misperception of giving things away for free means that you're not making money or not receiving. It's more the term I prefer to use is that you give freely. You can give freely of your services, and you give freely of your heart, and you give freely of these creations. And you also receive freely. So you have a space for people to then, if they love your work, where they can contribute and in gratitude for the services that you're providing. Is that what you do? Is that you rely then on contributions?
Well, to be honest, we don't rely on contributions. We've been blessed to be in a situation right now where we don't have to rely on anybody. But that could change. At this moment, we do accept donations and contributions as a reciprocal gift offering. I like to say we offer blessings for free. Or freely. We offer blessings freely. And if anyone wants to bless us back, we're very grateful.
Okay. That's wonderful. I love that. So where can people find you? What's the best way to find you? What's the best way to support you? What's the best way for people to see the work that you're doing in the world? And I want to find out if you get this property.
The best way to find us is on our website, the OMNIFoundation.com. But we also have our Facebook, the OMNI Foundation Facebook page. But there is another OMNI Foundation that's a music group in San Francisco,
California.
So not to be confused with that. But we're on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and our website. Those are the four main ones. So YouTube, we've got a couple of separate things. There's a Leah Kirrane web page and YouTube page and everything separate. That's my music and poetry and books. But the OMNI Foundation is the magazine plus the products or the productions that we put out, plus the vision and all of that. My page is just my thing, and then OMNI Foundation is more the vision, the magazine, and all of that. So the OMNIFoundation.com is the best place.
So what I'll do is I'll put all of your links in the comments below so people can go to your websites and go find your YouTube channel and check out your books and your music and all that you're doing as well.
Excellent. Yeah, excellent.
Below.
Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria.
Oh, you're welcome. And I thank you so much for being here. You know, we've been Facebook friends for a while.
A long time. Long time. Wow.
Yeah. Well,
you know, it's funny.
I think that, didn't that Neil Donald Walsh, that was for 2012, wasn't it? The Evolution Revolution?
No, I think that started on March the 12th, 2015.
2015, really?
It was actually 2015, March the 12th, and every month thereafter. And it was just about going around, getting these pamphlets done, and then dropping them off wherever you could, you know, which I ended up doing. I felt so excited about it. Yeah, really. It put a smile on.
And that book that he wrote, that book that he wrote in conjunction with Evolution Revolution was a fantastic book.
Yeah. Conversation with God.
What God said.
Yeah.
No, that one. It was, you got me all wrong. It was that
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got me wrong.
Yeah.
the 19 messages that I remember reading that and thinking, yep, agree.
Yeah.
Every single one of the comments that God said through Neil Donald Walsh in that book was a really, really powerful book. And we're still in the middle of that evolution revolution.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
And it's happening.
And it's speeding up.
It is, and it's growing. So not necessarily his program, but the spiritual revolution
Right.
going on our planet, most definitely. And we got to be part of the beginning of that. So
Exciting.
It is exciting.
very
It's actually quite amazing.
Well, I thank you both for being here. It's been just a delight to connect with you and hear your story.
Victoria.
We're up
Thank
to. And I'm really excited to see where
Keep in touch.
I will, for sure. Definitely.
It's been a real pleasure.
And if you ever find yourself in South Africa,
I will. There will be a point where I will make it. Once we are free to travel around the world again. Come for a visit. Definitely.
Definitely.
Right.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank all of you for watching again. And as always, remember to hold your lights so high others can't help but see their own light. And as always, get bold, be fearless, and live free.